Oh, hello, Nevaeh,
Hello.
the first official guest of GSL Uncut.
I'm so honored to be here.
We are honored to have you here. Cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
Let's not drop any or spill
Oh my
anything on
gosh,
any
over
of
the
the new,
soundboard.
brand new equipment. I have soggy underwear. Reason being,
Explain.
today was a really hectic day, and Melissa and I were just outside trying to cover up some new concrete that was just poured this morning. We got caught in a crazy downpour, thunderstorm. We did that. They got cleaned up. I came in here and got set up, and so I've got some soggy bibbities.
Wow.
And bibbities, for those who don't know, underwear, men's underwear.
I feel like
We've all learned something new today already. Look at that. We're what, 30 seconds in?
mm-hmm.
Anywho,
Anyway,
how are you, Nevaeh?
I am good. This is cool. This feels weird.
Feels right. It feels right. It feels
right.
good.
It's a good
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. So you are our 16-year-old daughter,
Yes.
for those who maybe aren't aware of that. And we were finishing up with episode number 2 last week, talking about interpersonal relationships and the differences between the generations, because you've got the olds, like mom and I, and then you have you young folk out there all doing the online
Mm-hmm.
Insta-face and such.
The
Right.
Instaface, the Tic Tac.
So go ahead, speak on that. Offer up a little clarification for us as to why it is that the younger people actually apparently choose to prefer to communicate online.
I feel like with the internet, my generation is slowly getting more and more socially awkward. And the internet has just kind of become our main form of socialization. You could be with people all day, but then once you get home, you're actually going to talk to them more via texting or DMing or whatever. And I don't know if it's because it's more comfortable. There's less intimidation. You don't have to look people in the eye, which isn't a good thing. But I think we're just opting for the easier way to do things.
We've had a lot of discussions about this
Right.
in our home, especially because you've had a cell phone now for what, last year
Yeah.
or so. Mom, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I don't think that it's a good thing because not only are you not present when you're with your friends or you're on a date or what have you, but you're not present when you're home either. So when you leave the friends, you go home and then that's when you guys decide to actually talk and communicate, but then you're not present in your home with your family. And I think adults are guilty of that as well.
Yeah, for sure. We're all guilty of it to a certain extent.
Yeah.
However, it would not be my preference to communicate with any of my loved ones or friends through electronics.
No, I hate it. I'm like, call me. I don't like to communicate via text.
Yeah, I'm also somebody who didn't have a smartphone until 2016
Mm-hmm.
and didn't have text messaging until 2016 either. So I'm that guy.
Well, Nevaeh didn't either.
I know, but it's just a generational, it's almost like a requirement nowadays, right? Like if you want to converse or
Yeah.
try to meet up with somebody, all of that is going to be coordinated and planned online.
Yeah. I don't think, especially out here, because everyone lives so far away from each other, we're all so separated. I feel like it is 100% a necessity to be able to communicate with people online, to be able to make plans in real life.
You're not even talking with just friends though. You're talking about people that you've actually never met before and you maybe just have an interest in eventually meeting in real life.
Yeah.
You will break the ice via
Yeah.
private message, direct message.
But does it actually break the ice? Because then when you meet them in person, isn't it still awkward?
Yes. It's so in my experience, when I meet someone in real life, and I've always just known them from the start in person, it is way easier to talk to them and get to just become comfortable around them. I could talk to someone online for 2 months without meeting them. And then when I actually meet them, it feels really weird. It feels like they're a different person than the person I've been talking to online.
Because you create like a false sense of who they are.
Yeah. Because I mean, you talk to them, but you can't see them. So you have to just,
You use your imagination.
yeah. And then when you see them in real life, it's like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah. And this is the argument that I would make against it, is
Yeah.
because there's so much that's lost in translation and people can be so much more calculated and come up with a character to present to somebody
Mhm.
online as opposed to actually just being raw, reacting in the moment and doing all that.
Yeah, but this is something we've been talking about too, is the differences between like the older people and the younger people and how we present ourselves
Hold on
online.
a second. What are you considering an older person?
I'm not saying you are the older people. You might conduct yourselves differently online than much younger people.
Like
though.
old people.
I think everybody does because you have the opportunity to kind of craft and manipulate the way you want to come across.
Mm-hmm. I think it's different though for people, like especially teenagers. They're much more open and raw online because we do use that as a form of socialization. I think people older, like they go on Facebook and they just present the best parts of everything, like the highlights of their life.
Of
They
course.
make everything look perfect. And then I think younger people don't necessarily do that, and they're more willing to just say what their internal dialogue is when they're texting. Because when you're in real life, you're more likely to just kind of withhold stuff or your inner feelings and try to be polite and safe.
Mhm.
And online, they don't really do that. So if you're feeling like confrontational about something, you're just going to go off like on social media rather than you would in real
adults
life.
do that too. But I do think that, yes, adults will put out a more idealistic view of themselves.
Yeah.
Like, I know if I'm trying to get, like, I'll say like bread, because there's a thing about like women presenting their bread. sounds weird.
Mom and the sourdough.
Yeah,
the
sourdough
go-to analogy.
stinking hard to get to rise. You have no idea. It's a commitment. It's a baby in a bottle, and you have to feed it every day until it turns gray and it dies. Sourdough and I don't get along. Anyway, I have successfully made un loaf, and I took pictures of it in different lights, and I put cloth under it, and I was like, look at my sourdough. And all these other women who couldn't get their bread to rise, they're like, how do you do it? And I'm like, well, it's an art. Next loaf, doorstop.
Okay. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, adults put out this like crazy like version of themselves. And I don't think that the teenagers do that. If anything, they kind of show like, this is me as a train wreck.
Yeah, but because we live in a time where being or depicting yourself as being a victim is something that will get you a lot of attention. I think oftentimes we see it all the time online. Is this true for teenagers?
Yes.
I know that's definitely been my experience. So I
Yeah.
worked in a high school for the last couple of years. That was my last place assignment before I actually left. And I recall that there were kids who would come up to me and tell me that they were dating virtually,
Mm-hmm.
to where all of their interaction, all of their conversations, and yes, all of their interactions were occurring via whatever
Yeah.
app or electronic means of communication they were choosing to use.
I think that goes into what I was just saying about how you can talk to someone online, you get comfortable with them online, and then in real life it's different. So people can go through like a talking phase. That's a thing. And
Well, we're going to need some clarity. What is a talking phase? Because that was not a thing.
it's like dating, kind of. It kind of comes before dating. It's getting to know a person, which is what dating's supposed to be for, but you get to know them before you actually start dating them.
So it's like a pre-screening.
Yeah, basically. It's
So
just
there's no awkward first date. By the time you go on a first date, you've been talking.
It's
So if you're talking, are you allowed to be talking with other people, or if you're talking, it's exclusive?
it's not exclusive, which is where feelings get hurt.
Right. And then from talking, there's a new stupidity that has been introduced to society called,
Situationship.
The situationship.
it's the
Bum, bum, bum.
dumbest thing I've ever heard.
We've been talking about that this week because this
Right.
is something that Melissa and I just learned about.
I learned about it about 3 days ago. And from what I gathered, a situationship is basically there's mutual feelings, that's understood, but it's non-committal. You're not boyfriend and girlfriend. You just hang out. You like each other, but it's usually one person in the party that doesn't quite want to commit.
Yeah.
So then if they move on, they're free to do so because we were in a relationship.
So it's just an opportunity for promiscuity. Is that
It
right?
sounds like
It's
Yeah.
the
it's-
recipe for disaster.
No, it's more of just like when people keep someone on the back burner. They say
So that's what I'm saying.
they say
Yeah.
the famous
Right.
line of situationships is, "I'm not ready for a relationship."
Ah,
But I don't want you to talk to anyone else because I want to keep you on the back burner if I don't find someone better.
so exclusivity for me, but when it comes to me, I want to be able to explore different options.
Well, they're both free to. It's a disaster.
There's no exclusivity. It's just exclusive. How do you say that word?
Exclusivity.
Exclusivity.
Don't let it get in your head or you'll never be able to say it.
I think it's so odd the way that kids go about handling their business nowadays when it comes to the dating world. There's no like going steady anymore. There's no,
No.
let me give you my Letterman jacket. There's no
No pin,
there's no pins or any of that stuff.
glass rings.
So do you think that this online form of establishing friendships or even romantic relationships is a good thing?
No. I think online communication is a good tool for getting to know people better because, again, younger people I think they act more themselves and say how they're really feeling on the internet. So you can get a better feel for what's actually going on in someone's head. So I think it's good for that case. But when your main form of communicating with someone is online, it makes things really weird in real life.
But that's the reality that we live in now, right?
Yeah.
It seems like a waste of time. Like you could talk to someone for a long time and you think you like them because maybe they are putting their best face forward. And then you meet them in real life and you're just like, maybe there's something about them that you're not attracted to. Maybe they smell like wet dog or something. Something that could have been like it could have easily saved you 2 months of communicating with this person if you had just met them in person and be like, I don't want to, it's been
Can't
good,
do
but
that.
this
Can't
isn't
go
going to
there.
work out,
Well,
Yeah.
Usually the thing about those is it doesn't, you know the person before in real life when you start a talking phase.
How?
Yeah.
So like
That's not all. I know for a fact that that's not
That's
always
not
true
always
even for
true.
you, right?
A talking phase? It's a phase? Like there's
it's a phase. It's
First of all,
called
how many different people have we
talking
talked to?
phase.
Yeah, are you currently talking to anybody?
No, I am not currently talking.
Tell the
to
truth.
No, but I know for a fact that there have been a lot of kids, a lot of boys that have reached out to you.
They want to enter
Right?
the talking
You're
phase.
you're a pretty little young lady, and yeah, so you're gonna be getting some attention. How many boys have reached out? You know what? Don't tell me.
I'm not going to
Never mind.
answer that.
What?
What did Dad tell you about boys?
No. Okay. Well, yeah. We'll get into that. What was my question? I already lost it. You got me flustered.
You said it.
Something about boys.
Go ahead. You take over. I'm totally at a loss now.
So, have you ever been in one of these situationships? I mean, I feel like we should know about this. We have asked you not to have any boyfriends till you graduate high school.
No, I've made sure to kind of avoid situationship dating, anything like that right now. So
That's the correct answer.
We have a deal that we don't really want boyfriends and girlfriends until graduation.
No, we've had discussions about this. I know for a fact that you and I on a drive home one night from youth group had a discussion about the fact that, hey, you're at the normal age where most kids decide that they want to start pursuing romantic feelings and possibly dating, maybe even having a relationship and all that. So it's completely normal, but I don't always know that that's what's best for my child at the age of 16 per se. I mean, the older you get, the more, of course, things are going to happen over time, but I don't think it's something that should be rushed or you should feel as though, hey, I'm 16, so I need to start dating now. I think that's a poor decision
Right.
on everyone's part.
And well, I didn't know about these talking phases and these situationships. I mean, that's a way to really get around some of this. There's a lot of families, and we know that don't want boyfriend, girlfriends till graduation. It's very kind of a common thing
Around here.
around here.
Yeah.
Actually,
Not-
that's almost totally foreign in other areas.
Yeah, that's not true for
Yeah.
most of the world
right.
or
Well,
most of our country, anyway,
yeah.
I'd say.
I mean, I guess I had boyfriends in high school, but the conversations that we have had is that teen dating really just leads to broken hearts and, kind of really tragic feelings because you form these adult relationships before your brain is developed. So scientifically, the frontal lobe
Not fully formed till 25.
is not fully formed until 25.
I just think teenagers are ill-equipped to deal with like you said, there are a lot of adult situations that come along with dating, and you're dealing with people who are not adults making
Right.
adult decisions, or who are able to rationalize things like an adult
Yeah.
is able to. So
Right. And you just because you're young doesn't mean you can't develop adult feelings by entering in adult type relationships. So then when they inevitably end, which they usually do when you're young, somebody wants out, the other person is left completely shattered
none of this is to say that this is applicable to you because you're a very
Right.
smart girl, you're very wise. It's
and
just
not dating. But she will be.
sure, and it's just that really it's just our preference
Right.
as your parents that you would take care of things that we view as being a higher priority in the meantime. And boys aren't going anywhere, so
No.
you will have many suitors over the years. I guarantee it.
Suitors. That is old fashioned.
Yeah, see, I'm old school like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it used to be a lot easier for parents. Like now we have to worry about our kids picking their spouses, which they should be allowed to do. And you should marry for love and all that. But think about how easy it was in the past when you would pick the family, you would give them 4 goats and then they would take Nevaeh.
If we have
and
sheep, we can make that happen.
You trade me
Nobody
for
wants
sheep.
those sheep. They smell bad.
What are your thoughts? What's your personal philosophy when it comes to all this about dating and
When it comes to
everything
teen
else?
dating.
Teen dating, and just what's your outlook on the whole dating scene as a whole? You think casual dating is something that you will partake in the older you get, or are you?
Inquiring minds want to know.
This isn't something that was, I don't know, ever at the forefront of my mind as a kid, but mom and I met when we were really, really young. So
Mhm. I think with both casual dating and teen dating, I think it's good for like practice. And if you do go on some casual dates, like if someone asks you to dinner and you just maybe go out with them one time, it's good to just meet new people and see what you like and what you don't like, and certain traits that you like find very attractive in a person and things that you don't. So it can make it easier when you're going into more serious relationships. With teen dating, I kind of view it all as it's probably just going to be practice.
yeah,
Because-
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I don't think teen relationships necessarily get that serious, even if it feels.
But they do, because that's how feelings get so hurt.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
I
people that
completely
get
agree.
really tore up.
Yeah.
I guess I don't think they should get that serious.
Yeah, again,
She's going to break hearts.
You are.
She's going to be like, we're not serious.
And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I actually agree with you as far as the whole practicing aspect and
Mhm.
kind of forming your own preferences as far as what it is that you're looking for in somebody that you want to be spending more time with. Okay, so what is it you were going to bring up about what it is that I have told her when it comes to boys?
Well, I think it just in your attempt to completely, so this all stemmed from her having guy friends. So Nevaeh has guy friends. Like you like to have guy friends, and Dad has always said you can't have guy friends.
No, and I just want to preface this by saying that whenever I make statements like the one that you were about to bring up, I'm always speaking in generalities. So there are exceptions to every single rule, but generally speaking,
Guys are perverts.
That's what he told me.
That's what he said. Guys are perverts.
All of them.
I said boys are perverts.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
the funny thing is, because she'll be like, I have these guy friends, and he's like, they don't want to be your friends. And
And have I been right?
Most of the time.
Thank you.
yeah, well, once it's that I feel like guys and girls can be friends if it's a group situation.
Mhm.
If always in a group, you've always hung out in a group, you're a group at school, you can absolutely have guy friends. It's when you start hanging out with one of the guys from the group alone, now you've given off the message that you're interested even if you're not.
Mhm.
So that's where things get awkward. That's where you run into the, what do they say? I want to,
Situationship.
no,
Oh, sorry.
like,
Oh,
wrong
it's you're hanging out with a guy and they all of a sudden do the, can I tell you something?
and you're like,
When they reveal their
Oh.
true intentions.
It's always like, can I tell you something? And you're like, dang it.
Again, I feel bad saying that, but
don't
it's,
say.
and I'm not saying like this is necessarily true for every single kid, but it's just, I think it's important for you for just as a matter of discernment, knowing that if a male comes up to you,
They're a pervert.
You're a pervert. He told me.
No, just honestly, keep it in the back of your mind, right? Because for real,
Always and forever. Well,
I just want to make sure you have an understanding that if a male comes up to you and is chatting with you casually as you're at Safeway shopping for spaghetti noodles, that he is not trying to strike up a conversation with you about pasta. He's trying to break the ice because
he's a pervert, a dirty pervert.
No, and again, it sounds so bad in this context, in this setting, but all I'm saying is men very, very oftentimes have an agenda.
It's so funny because when you were having that heated conversation with Nevaeh, I told my mom about it the next day, and she started laughing because it's the exact thing that my dad told me. I remember he was like standing in the kitchen and he was yelling at me in his bathroom, and he was like, your friends, they're perverts. He's a pervert and he's a pervert. I'm a pervert. Like, and I was like, ew. Like,
that's
and
very
he's like,
much your
and
dad.
that's how I know. And so it was so funny because as you were yelling that at her, I
had
was having
flashbacks.
flashbacks of my own childhood of my dad warning me about the same thing.
Yeah,
It's what he thought of you.
I'm sure he did, and he wasn't entirely wrong. So I just think it's different when it comes to our daughters in
Right.
particular, and that's because you're in a much more vulnerable position in those situations and circumstances than a male
Well, it's so
would be.
funny because like Kira was like, and then listening, and then Eli at 8 years old goes, "Yeah, no, it's true." He just
I love
chimed
being
in.
validated by my 8-year-old son. It's great.
Chimed into the conversation
Yeah,
like
hey.
completely unprompted, and I was like, "Oh,
That was an honest response.
he's always honest."
That he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, to his credit. But again, to my point, I mean, legitimately, you got the 8-year-old validating what I'm saying here. So
Jeez. Well, it's so funny because I think guys and girls just think so differently, and so
for sure, that's why I
we're-
think it's so important for her to be aware.
right. And so I'm not necessarily the best person to talk to in that sense because I'm the girl that was
Because
on
you're
the
also
other
a
end.
pervert. I'm just joking. Sorry.
I mean, no. And no, but I mean, I was always looking more for like the romance end of things and everything. And
I think guys are as
Yeah.
well. There's just an added element of the physical contact that
but I
comes
feel
along
like,
with that.
yeah, I feel like the romance was kind of like short sighted. It was like, I'll do this for,
I
for a
think
different
it's
outcome.
less of a priority for your male counterpart for sure. I don't know. It's important that you know that, and I just want you to be fully aware and be able to discern and navigate those situations in a way that is, beneficial to you, I guess is what I'm saying.
Now I feel like the pendulum's swinging a little bit. Now I feel like the modern woman of today, it has a lot of power and they know it.
Yeah.
And they are now using that. I think it's women that created situationships.
Oh, it's totally women that
Because-
created situations.
Speak on it. Go ahead.
It just is. Every situationship with the teenagers is a guy that's really into it and a girl that's not as into it. So always, I feel like
I've been that guy.
no, I feel like women are they're not as emotionally vulnerable. I feel like men might be on the other, like they might be more emotionally vulnerable.
Yeah.
But I
certainly.
think that's new. It used to be the other way around.
It used to be like the men are the heartbreakers.
I don't know. I've had a
and-
lot of friends that have been
That's
crying
true.
upset with broken hearts over the
That's
years.
true.
So
That's true.
yeah, I don't know what it is, but I think, emotionally, maybe the men are a little more susceptible because we have this false sense of like, hey, we're always in control. And
But no, I don't like it. I don't like the situationship. It is so stupid to even say that word. It is dumb. I don't like it because it seems like you're wasting somebody's time and you're not really into it. Because if you're really into it, you don't keep somebody on the back burner. You're not looking for somebody else, so you're just wasting somebody's time and you're going to inevitably break their heart. And it just seems like a giant waste of everyone's time. It's a lack of commitment. And why? Like, people used to wait until they met somebody that they thought would be a good suitor or a good mate. They were taught, look for things that, like my dad would tell me when I was dating a guy, if you see something in this guy that you would be like, I wouldn't marry him, end it immediately.
yeah,
Like,
and we've had
don't
the
continue.
same discussions and recommendations for you.
Mhm.
Because that's
Right.
what dating ultimately is. Not that
Yeah.
you should be thinking about marriage, but if you're talking to somebody and they bring up some thing that you view as a flaw, that should be it.
I personally agree. Yeah. And that's, like I said, that's the guidance that we've given you. What are your thoughts on that as far as trying to figure out whether or not a person is a possible lifelong mate or partner? What do you think?
I mean, I agree with what Mom said. You don't. I mean, there's no way to know, and there's times when you're younger and you shouldn't be thinking about marriage necessarily. But if there is a like clear deal breaker kind of thing,
Yeah. Red flags.
there's no reason to just continue on, I guess.
Yeah. You shouldn't ignore red flags.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like these teens that have these relationships where they're fighting all the time and someone's always crying and they're breaking up. Like, what are
They
you
love
doing?
the drama, though.
But
They love
why?
the drama.
Everyone loves the
I don't
off and
know.
on relationship.
That's never going to ultimately lead to a life of happiness and a healthy marriage and child rearing and all that.
I don't think that most kids in Nevaeh's age think about marriage.
No.
Yeah.
That
I
maybe
think you're right.
maybe that isn't true around here because we live in small town USA.
Around
but
here, like once you graduate high school, it's like, so
Right.
when you getting married?
Yeah,
Very different.
it is extremely different here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the pressures are almost a little bit higher. And a lot of people aren't allowed to date until they are 18. And so they hit 18 and they're like, I
No
gotta
dating,
date.
but then immediate marriage.
Then we get
Yeah.
married.
Yeah.
So
Pretty
there's like
much.
this almost like courting. Like a lot of people are marrying the first person they're dating right out of high school.
Mhm. Here.
Mhm.
Yeah. But it was done like that for a very long time. I think the casual dating skews you in a way. So there's positives to it, which you get to practice, you get to
Mhm.
see what to expect, what you like, what you don't like. But the negatives of it are inevitable broken hearts, hurt feelings. If you're dating somebody and then they start dating somebody else, you wonder, there's self-esteem issues that come with that, depression, all these things that teenagers and kids should not be worrying about. And when you have this history of that, I feel like it damages you for the future. Like you should guard your heart
Yeah.
until you're serious about a serious relationship.
Yeah. Which is the
Unpopular.
conflict with, and what?
It's unpopular.
I think that's the conflict with teen dating is it doesn't usually work out. So it's kind of like, do you practice? Do you not practice? Because then I feel like also if you haven't had any experience with that at all, once you are at the age where you're going to start doing that, you kind of tackle it a little differently.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I know some homeschoolers and stuff who had like more strict families, really religious families, and they weren't allowed to date until they were an adult. And they kind of like tackled it like a kid would. It was weird. They didn't.
A very like naive approach
Yeah.
to things, you mean?
Yeah. Everything
In what
was
way?
just
Give me an
like
example.
immediately in love. They're just like, I love this person, just like giving them everything immediately before even knowing them.
Yeah.
Because it's the first person they've ever like had something like that with.
Yeah, it makes sense. That's very common.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think people do that even in casual relationships. I mean, even in middle school, you see that.
Yeah.
And
See, middle school's too young.
Yeah,
right,
Far
but
too
but
young.
it starts. I mean, there's 12-year-olds like, this is my boyfriend,
Yeah.
and they're having adult relationships.
Can you
and
imagine Kira
No,
right now? Come on.
someone would disappear.
No.
Yeah.
So speaking of homeschooling, let's talk about that for a second because it's something we get a lot of questions about, some criticism for. What's been your experience with homeschooling to date? You got one more year of school. You're in your senior year of high school now. So you think it's been a good experience overall?
I think so. Yeah. I never would have liked public school personally.
You had a taste of public school as a kindergartner.
Kind
Oh,
of.
that
Half
was
day.
weird.
It was half day.
You did half day. It was a morning session,
It
right?
was Tuesdays and Thursdays, half
Yeah.
day. It was where homeschool kids could basically join public school, and I thought it'd be good to socialize her, and she did awkwardly.
So specifically
I didn't do awkwardly. There were a couple fights.
Yeah.
People were taking my crayons and I didn't like it.
You've always been a little bit different than the average kids your age, and it wasn't a homeschool thing because you were 5. Everybody was entering school at 5. You were just a very strong-willed, unintentionally funny child. Like you would do things that were hilarious unintentionally because you were so serious. Like you had like this little afro and then like this really stern look. You look just like Shirley Temple. Like
no,
when
she
Shirley
had
Temple
my
would
she had my resting face.
yeah.
The scowl.
Yeah, and
constantly.
then she would like, and I mean, yeah, unintentionally hilarious. Some of the stuff that would come out of your mouth. you would-
Provide an example. I already know where you want to go with this,
Oh
so go
man,
ahead.
some of the art. Okay, so parent teacher night, first experience in a public school situation. They were doing an Eric Carle unit. Eric Carle is the author of The Hungry Caterpillar. So she selects a caterpillar. And then you could pick any of the food for the caterpillar to eat. The lollipop, the watermelon, the grapes, whatever the caterpillar. Not Nevaeh. Nevaeh picked a pear.
Oh, she picked a pear, all right.
Pear. And then she had her caterpillar, and then she gave it a necklace, and then she slid the pear to the end of it.
No, it moved.
And then she colored the whole thing pink.
It slid back and forth, right?
It did, but I
But
had it on the
she
end.
put
for
hers
some
at the
reason.
end, and then her pink caterpillar with a pear and a smile with the tongue out and the necklace hung up by her photo for parent night. And when we arrived, our daughter had made a penis. She did. It was on display. She was the only kindergartner. And why would the teacher hang that up? I taught kindergarten, and I never would have hung up a penis for parent-teacher conference.
She's doubling down on the P.
Yes, it's what it is. They say you should use the actual terms with your children. And then I took it home in horror, and I hung it on the fridge for
Somebody
about
mark
2
this.
years.
Somebody jot down the date real quick. We just took until episode 3 for mom to blurt out.
I didn't take you back to school. That was it. That was the end.
It was unintentional and it was hilarious, like you said. So yeah, good times, good story. If we find a
almost
photo,
died.
If we find that photo, I will include it.
We still have
in the
it.
final
It's
edit.
in a drawer somewhere.
I put it in
Yeah.
our baby book.
Of course,
That's
can't let that go.
lovely.
No,
Got to hold on to that one.
that's gold.
That's a classic.
Classic.
What else? How about the parent-teacher conference? The one and only parent-teacher conference that we've had.
So they did that thing like Kindergarten Cop. Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Oh.
And her answer, like other kids had like paragraphs. My daddy works at a car dealership and he wears a suit and he da 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 da. And on the weekends we go to movies. Nevaeh wrote, my daddy likes beer.
I wasn't
Which,
wrong.
While true, you could have just said police officer. That's all you
Yeah.
had to say.
My daddy's a police officer. My daddy taught me to ride a bike.
And
No,
you know what I put down for you? My mom likes Fox News.
Super cool 28-year-old.
I was bored. Okay. Yeah, that was it. That was the answer for.
Those are good times. So
Yeah.
let me divert and reroute away from this storytelling here. So from a social aspect, how has homeschooling treated you? Because I think that's the biggest criticism that people have about homeschooling is that they think you're going to be a socially inept young person.
There's a stigma around homeschool kids.
Absolutely.
For sure. I can't even count how many times I've told someone I was homeschooled and they went, "Really? You're pretty normal." I was like, "Thank you." or they're like, "You're homeschooled. Have you ever had a friend?" I'm like, "Yeah."
No.
Yes, I have. No, I actually like to tell people all the time. I'm like, "Never. I've never met someone my age before."
So being homeschooled simply
It's-
means that you are schooled at home.
Yeah, but I think homeschool kids, because they don't go to school, they make an effort to go do activities and like do stuff like sports or classes or just meet up with people a lot.
Mhm.
I think homeschool kids make more of an effort to like meet up with friends than public school kids do because they have people all day. You get tired.
Yeah, and it
So-
means a lot to you. You value
you really-
those opportunities.
You value the friendships you make because you don't just know everyone all the time. You
Yeah.
have to be selective and pick out your friends.
Mhm.
And yeah, I never really understood why people assume that you have no social interaction just because you do school at home.
I think it's just people that don't have any familiarity with it. And it's becoming such a common thing that you
Right.
kind
Yeah.
of hear that stigma that you're talking about less and less. And I love that so many people are actually plucking their kids either out of school or just
Yeah.
making the decision when they have young children that, hey, we're just going to do
Yeah.
this instead.
Yeah, homeschool has been so beneficial because you can, when you know your children, like we care about what happens to you more than anyone else in the world. So why would I give your education, your foundational years
Outsource that.
to multiple different people
Mhm.
that are working on just getting you through the system? I mean, I was a teacher and our job was to get those kids through.
But that's especially true nowadays. And I think that's the
Right.
reason that homeschool is gaining in popularity so rapidly is that that's especially true given the types of things that are now being taught.
Yeah.
Taught. I use the word taught loosely, but the things that are being instilled in our young children. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think people are starting to realize the importance of getting that back. Plus, it gives you so much more time. I read that if you homeschool your kids, you get like 16,000 hours back with each child.
What do you mean?
Just of time that you spend with them. 16,000 hours
That you would lose
regain
otherwise.
if you put your kids in school for 7 hours.
Got it.
So, I mean, it's kind of funny because our kids are so different. Nevaeh only had that awkward experience in kindergarten, but the other kids have never experienced that. So sometimes we drive by the school and there's these fences because they don't want people entering the school. So there's tall fences and they always see the kids in the playground. And our kids are like, there's baby jail.
We used to talk about it all the time. So when I was a school resource officer, we would always draw the comparison between the way that school campuses were set up when compared to jails because they're very, very similar if you look at it.
Mhm.
I mean, you've got pods, you've got halls, you've got fencing around the entire school.
Security.
In a lot of cases, you have security.
Like you.
You have a warden and a principal who are responsible for all of the discipline that comes down. So there are a lot of parallels there.
Yeah, that's kind of weird when you think about it like that.
Yeah. But you go to like a lot of the public school events. You've gone to basketball games and football
Yeah.
games and all of that. Do you enjoy those experiences?
Yeah.
Does it make you curious about what the like day-to-day life of a public school kid is?
I mean, I talk to enough people that go to school that I have an idea, and they all don't like it.
So does it not sound appealing to you?
Not to me personally, no. It doesn't.
Because you get to wake up pretty much whenever you want. Let's be real here. Keep your pajamas on, dive into your laptop, and that's how you
Yeah.
get school done.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would like public school. I'm not introverted, but I have a social battery, and that social battery runs out quickly. And I like the people that I like. I like my close friends. I've always had a very small circle. But outside of that, I'm not as extroverted, and I don't think I would like being just with a bunch of people all day, 5 days a week.
You think that you will struggle with structure as an adult because of your lack of structure as a young person over the years?
I think that's a thing, yes, with homeschoolers, because
th-
you never really had a schedule.
Yeah, I think that maybe will be a thing with all of you, but I don't necessarily see that as being a drawback, honestly.
I think it encourages you guys to be entrepreneurs and be creative and figure out alternate ways than the norm, because you guys getting up, commuting to work, going to an office, having a boss, looking over your shoulder, reprimanding you, getting back in your car, driving home, doing it all over the next day is something you've never experienced. But that is something that you learn in school from the time that you are 4 years old if you go to preschool, which is kind of a new concept. The whole design of school was it really started in the late 1800s, and it was to turn out factory workers, stand in line, desk and row. It was very almost military, military style.
I feel like it kills your individuality and all the things, the special gifts that each one of us has as individuals. It just kind of numbs that part of you and tries to make everybody the same in a lot of ways. And I don't necessarily view that as being healthy. That's my own personal opinion. That's the reason that you guys are all homeschooled. That's a large part of it anyway.
Right. And I was homeschooled as well until 8th grade. So I experienced that as well. And I learned to communicate with adults very well, but not necessarily my peers. And so I had a lot of these adult conversations. I came from a pretty political family. And so I had always spoken very freely on issues that I believed on. And I think that's the same with you. You speak very freely on these issues. So then when you are face to face with a peer and you're just like, no, actually, and then you just speak like you would to an adult.
Yeah, you don't mince words.
Yeah.
Right.
That can be weird with kids.
I can be someone who likes to debate things.
Where do you get that from? That's amazing.
I have no idea.
Interesting.
I have always liked politics. I don't know if it came from Papa, your dad. He's very into politics, and I would
Runs
call
through the
him
veins.
on the phone since I was 5 years old, and he'd be like, "Did you see on the news that blah 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 blah?" And I'd be very into it.
Yeah.
And I will post stuff, or I'll share stuff, or I'll share my opinions on stuff, and then people will disagree with me. A lot of my peers will disagree with me
And
on
then it's
certain
on.
issues.
And you don't back down and delete it? It's not an uncomfortable, okay.
No, I double down. That's
Again, amazing.
Maybe you should be a talking head when you grow
I
up.
can't imagine where that comes from.
Oh yeah, or someone will try to argue something with me, and they're like, "Oh, well, I don't like that because," and I'm just like, yeah.
And it's not that we're naturally argumentative. It's just that we
No,
are.
I don't like to be argumentative.
No, but we are very strong in our convictions.
Yes, I like
And,
if I believe something, like I want to be able to back up my belief and
Correct.
verbalize that to people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really, really important.
And that's always been okay in the environment that you've been in, because you've been amongst adults and family. And that was a concern that people brought up to my dad too. They would say, "Aren't you worried that your girls aren't going to know how to talk to kids or their peers?" And he said, "Who the hell cares? They're not going to spend their lives interacting with teenagers. They're going to spend 90% of their life interacting with adults. They should learn to behave as adults." And he was like dead set on that from the time that we were young.
Either way, I don't think it's a bad thing to be extremely articulate and to be able to explain yourself. Like Nevaeh said, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It doesn't matter what your age is. In fact, it's more impressive the younger you are.
Yeah. Why do we want our children to act in an immature, irrational, irresponsible manner?
That's not
Because
to- well,
that's the age.
Because I think kids should be kids. And when a kid presents a certain way and is extremely articulate and explaining themselves in a way that makes perfect sense to an adult, it just kind of comes across
as awkward homeschool
as,
kid.
yeah, exactly. Right. And so I'm not saying that, would you also say that you are open to having your mind changed on things?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's important too, not to be so rigid that you're not willing to hear somebody out and maybe change
Yeah.
your mind on something.
I'm not rigid because another thing with people that are homeschooled, a lot of them are like religious families or they're very into like politics and stuff like that. They place an importance on your beliefs with stuff like that.
Mhm.
And people will like accuse you of not being open-minded or be like, you just think that because that's how your family feels.
Right.
You've never been around anyone besides your family, so you don't know any better.
Terribly insulting.
It is. It's
Yeah.
like I could think for myself.
Mhm.
And I like to believe that I like to do research before I make an opinion.
Mhm.
So a lot of times my research does align with how I already felt. But I mean, there's been some things where I've changed my mind on them.
Yeah.
It's just-
And despite the fact that you are homeschooled and we are a very tight knit family, we don't always agree on things.
Right.
No,
There's a lot
So-
of heated debate in our family.
There is.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like
yeah.
mostly between you two.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, we actually disagree on quite a few things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly on social issues, actually.
Nothing's coming. I'm like, what?
Well, I mean,
Without getting into it, because I don't want to turn the
Right,
discussion
I mean-
about that.
but yeah, just on things where like you'll be like, this is dumb or
But
whatever.
like
and
dating issues and stuff like that.
dating issues, friendship issues, what's acceptable at what age.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think it's that we ultimately will disagree. I think it's just that at
Mm-hmm.
this stage of life, and the fact that you're a 16-year-old girl, and the fact that I'm your 40-year-old father, I think we're going to have some disagreements when
Right.
it comes to a lot of
Yeah.
those topics and issues. So
Yeah. I think you guys will end up coming back together when you're older. That's what happened with my dad and I. I mean,
it's not like there's some crazy division between the two
No.
of us. Like I said, it's just it's a perception thing oftentimes, right? Now I'm going to perceive and look at certain situations very differently from the way that you view them. And that's totally natural.
And me and Dad are both the most we like to debate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strong-willed.
Neither one of us
So,
are willing to back down.
inevitably we're gonna butt heads with stuff. So
Yeah.
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 But we get along for the most part. She is my child. She is for sure my child,
Mm-hmm.
if there was any doubt.
Well, she's got like your stubbornness, but then like my
Yeah.
personality. So that is like, whoa.
I've got Mom's personality.
Yeah.
And
We have the
then-
same birthdays. So now what?
We have the same hair. So
I don't
I just
know that you
straightened
do.
my
Not right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just got caught in the rain and then I blow dried it. And she was
Yeah.
like, oh, you do have my hair. I looked like,
You looked fine.
I look like
It's the podcast.
Mariah
like-
Carey in 1991.
Hey,
for-
she was a
like-
hot commodity in
Look at
1991.
this.
What are you
Look at
talking
this
about? Those curls. Look at that
This.
I look
volume.
like-
frizz.
no, but mine wasn't curls because I blow dried it. So it was just puff.
Okay, so let me piggyback off of the homeschool discussion. What has been your experience with living out in the middle of nowhere? Since again, that brings about a lot of questions and criticisms as well.
I don't think my life is different living here than it would be if I lived in a town.
Really?
I think
Not-
it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think it is
it's
too.
harder to go do things,
Yeah.
but I feel like if I'm gonna go do something, I'm gonna go do it either way. If I'm gonna go out, it's gonna be a longer drive, but I'm
A
still
longer
gonna go
commute.
out. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is different. It's pretty far.
hmm
But it's easier now for you because now you can go
Now I got the car.
on your own.
So I guess the romantic notion that I had as your parent is that we would come out here and yeah, it can be very quiet and sometimes very boring, but that you would pour yourself into your passions, like music, stuff like that. And I think it's just coming here just in my mind prior to actually making the move. That was kind of my thought process on it, was that, hey, there's no reason to get bored. Find something that you're interested in and pursue it and
Yeah.
devote yourself to it. And you will have lots of free time living here to make that happen.
Yeah, I don't get bored here.
No?
No, I never am just like sitting there in the middle of the day and I'm like, I'm so bored living here.
I always wonder that in watching all of you sometimes as to whether or not you're bored. Even when you're like the little kids are running around.
They don't seem to be.
They don't seem to be,
No.
but I always wonder, I'm like, and maybe it's just because they don't really know any different.
I think if we had like one child, they'd be bored.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
it's
But not, so I was an only child growing up. And you always make that argument of
I
like, you
was
must
one
have
of
been
4.
bored. And I don't ever recall being bored. And again, it's because I didn't have anything to compare it to. It just
Yeah.
my day-to-day life was my day-to-day life, and I didn't know any different.
Okay.
So
It just looks
maybe
boring.
not.
Every time we knew an only child, we're like, that sucks. They must be bored.
Yeah,
I
but I think that's
know.
the same thing that's happening to me when I look at them. You know, wondering that to myself, like, here, I wonder if they're bored right now. They can be running around playing tag, you know, jumping on the trampoline. I'm like,
That
are you
looks
guys
boring.
bored?
They're
why
not.
you're
They're all
doing this?
squealing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't feel bored. I do wonder about like where I am gonna end up living,
Mm-hmm.
because for me, like if I'm 20 or in my 20s, I'm like, I don't know if this is necessarily the place for me in that period of my life,
Mm-hmm.
because our whole town has like no people in it.
We have
It's-
220 people.
I think less than that, really, with where we live.
Yeah,
It's really,
it's
really
very
tiny.
small, and
Yeah.
we have one thing to go do in the whole town. There's one you can go to, the bowling alley, and half of it's broken.
That's not totally true though, because we have a lot of fishing, we have a lot of hiking, we
Yeah.
have a lot of outdoors
You have to
activities,
get creative.
snowboarding and skiing in the wintertime.
Yeah, but that's all like outdoor stuff. She means
Yeah.
like teenage
No, I get it.
hangout. Like
Yeah.
we at
I
the
get it.
mall and the movie theater and
Does anyone go to the mall anymore?
I don't
I
know,
think
but
that's a
we
thing
did in the
anymore.
90s.
Yeah.
That was the
If-
hip place.
If we had a movie theater in town, I'd be good. I'd just be like,
Hmm.
I'm going to the movies every single week.
Maybe
they
we
only
should
play,
open
like-
a movie theater.
Maybe we should.
We should do it.
GSL movie.
We'll
should
talk about it later.
Open a drive-in movie theater.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
That would be awesome. You
Except
can
for
sit
in the
a tr-
winter.
There's so much acreage around here. You can make that happen.
Yeah, you can sit in a truck bed, some blankets.
No, Nevaeh, you're not getting in a
Movie.
truck bed. This is just what we were talking
we
about.
have a truck.
Oh,
said it was a boys'
maybe as a
truck bed.
family. Okay.
Family.
So what else? You also recently just got your driver's license. How's that been going?
It's been good. I've gone out by myself a couple of times. The first time was like an hour from home, and I'd never been in that area before.
Mhm.
So it was really weird. And I was just, you lose service everywhere here. I was
Yeah.
praying. I was like, please don't go out Google Maps. I will be lost and stuck on the train tracks. I was like,
Yeah.
Why would you get stuck on the train tracks just because you're lost?
Worst
Nevaeh,
case scenario.
never
Because she's
stop
my
there.
child.
no, the
You
whole
never
area
stop on
is,
the
is
train.
around the train tracks. I was getting,
Yeah.
it was very confusing. Everything looked the same. I was like, there's tracks there, there's tracks here.
I'll stop on the tracks.
But again, so as somebody who was homeschooled and has spent the overwhelming majority of her life here at home with mom and dad, is it kind of bizarre to be out on your own, even if just for a few hours?
Okay, the one and only thing that feels weird
Did
to
you
me.
miss us? Basically, what I'm asking is, did you miss us?
She didn't.
No, the one and only thing that felt weird was the grocery store for some reason.
What do you mean?
I don't know why. Like driving by myself and everything, I felt fine. I felt comfortable.
Mhm.
When I was at the grocery store, I was like, this is weird. I felt like I was a
Like you
kid.
were adulting?
No, like when you're a kid, you lose your mom in the store and you're looking down up all the aisles. and
You start crying?
Did you go ask for a cookie at the bakery?
when your mom runs to go grab something while you're paying, and then all the groceries are now scanned and the lady's looking at you and you're like, I don't have money. I don't know where she is.
I don't know where my mom is. She went to get chips.
No, the grocery store felt weird. I don't know. That was the weirdest part.
It's kind of a surreal moment.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
weird. I couldn't find anything. I was like, I don't like this.
It's really weird for us. How do you think we feel?
Yeah.
Every time you leave, even if you're just going to get the mail, just seeing
The
you
mail.
leave in your car,
Yeah, it's a problem.
it I don't know. It is mind boggling.
Well,
You'll get to experience this later in life.
I
God
think
willing.
homeschooling
it's crazy.
is not only weird for the kids, but it's also weird for the parents because we've always had you guys like right there.
Yeah.
And anytime something bad is happening in the outside, you know, you hear about horrible events happening. You're like, oh, mine are here in the living room.
Yeah.
And so now that one of the birdies is venturing, there's a birdie missing. And it feels that way where
Mhm.
I think if your kids go to school, I mean, like empty nest is going to be extra hard for us
It is.
because they're always here. And that's going to be tricky because kindergarten and all the school years train the parents as well as the kids for that separation. And we don't have that.
Yeah. This keeps coming up in our discussions. It breaks my
Yeah.
heart every time.
Don't get
I
sad.
get sad.
We can't have you get sad right now.
Even just thinking about it. I get really uneasy feelings because we are such a close knit family who's always together.
Yeah.
I mean, even when I'm in a car sometimes, if not everybody is in the car with me, I have these moments of like something's wrong.
Yeah.
Just because like everybody's constantly around each other, one another.
I count in my head 1, 2, 3, 4. Like anytime we're anywhere, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like before, like I go to walk to the car.
Yeah.
There's a count.
You got all of them.
Like anywhere we're walking where there's a crowd, I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Like
So
I've been doing it for so long.
so you not being around for even just a few hours is really, really weird. Like I said, just seeing you.
4.
I was getting flashbacks of living in Vancouver and you riding that black and pink bike that I made for you.
Oh, I love that bike.
I spent like 2 weeks putting a bike together for Nevaeh, and she was what, 4, 5?
It was spray painted,
Yeah,
sparkling.
that was nice.
It was a nice bike.
That was a nice bike.
Yeah.
Good end result. But every time I see you driving away and now your blue Subaru, I'm like, how did we get from the pink and black bike to the Subaru?
You could spray paint our Subaru,
In like-
sparkle black.
The blink of an eye. And then I feel old. And then I go cry by myself.
He does.
No, it's just really, I hope you understand that, because I'm sure it probably makes for some weird, awkward situations. Like I can think, I had gotten done watering everything in the garden and you were leaving in your car on the driveway.
Yeah.
I couldn't even bear to look at you because it upsets me. And I know that's not healthy. And I know that sounds crazy, but we live very odd lives here. And I can't.
You're like, just go.
I can't. I know. I'm like, I know this is like normal life and this is what is supposed to happen. Your kids grow up and they branch out and they start doing their own thing, but it is a tough adjustment.
You're up there feverishly building the apartment and hope that
No,
she'll live in it.
and we came here with the understanding that all of you could remain here or come back here, but there's never been any pressure on our part for any of you. The expectation is not that you will stay. We have had many discussions about what it is you're going to be doing. You are turning 18 years old here in the next year and a few weeks, right? And how many times have I just wanted to make sure that you were fully aware of all of your options, because so many of them do not require that you stay here. Love to have you here. I'm not saying you got to leave, but I just want to make sure that you are. I'm not doing you a disservice by not laying out all of the options that you have to pursue.
Yeah. I honestly have no idea what it is, like where I want to live and for how long. So that's something I think about a lot. I think I do want to stay here and just save money for a while.
It's a great option.
I think at some point in like 19, 20, that kind of age, that I'm going to have to probably go somewhere with a little more people just for a little more exposure, because I don't want to just stay in the 200 people place the end of my entire life.
Yeah. And that's totally understandable. I mean, I've even kind of pushed you, right? Like, hey, you got Spokane, you got Coeur d'Alene, you've got Sandpoint, you've got like decent sized towns and cities that are nearby. And if you ever need us, we're, an hour or two away.
Yeah.
Those are options for you. We've talked about school. What are your thoughts on school and college and all that?
For me personally, I don't plan on going to college. I never really did plan on going to college. Not to say I totally like eliminated that from my possibilities, but I just don't see that for myself. There's nothing that really interests me that requires it. So
even the social aspect of it?
The social aspect, I think I would like, but it's just not worth a tuition.
It's an expensive way to get social.
So like we do have Coeur d'Alene nearby, which is, it's a small city. It's clean. It's safe. I really like Coeur d'Alene. It's probably like, it's not that far from here.
Couple hours.
It's a college town.
Sort of. There's a college there. It's not a college town. Like,
but
not like there's a big university there. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
But
there's a lot of young people there.
I like small areas still.
Yeah.
Everyone walking around is young. They're at that college age. And I think that's a good way to still get some of the socialization without having to actually go to college.
Yeah. What has our message to you always been when it comes to college?
Don't go unless you need to.
Don't go unless you need to. And I mean, that might sound weird to a lot of people out there, but
yeah, because it's kind of the natural step. It's go to high school, go to college.
Right.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not you know what it is that you want to do professionally with the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's always been, hey, if you want to, you want to become a whatever, an attorney, a doctor, and it requires that you go to school, fine. So be it. But don't go just to go.
Yeah.
That's kind of always been our message to you.
Yeah. I think when we were growing up in high school, everybody went to college.
Yeah.
Like it was like, you go to college.
It was the natural next step. It's just what you did.
It wasn't even a question. So
you do it because that's what people do.
Yeah. I was just going to go because that's what people did. And I luckily got some scholarships, but really I graduated with a degree that I used for 2 years but I paid for 15.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
It doesn't work out like that in every circumstance, but yeah,
No.
it's an all too common story that you hear from people.
Or
you
they
know?
don't use it at all, which was kind of my story. You didn't use yours either.
Yeah, I didn't. But I got paid an extra 2.5% with the police department,
well.
so I had that to look forward to. All right. Well, we're coming up an hour. Let me just say before we get things wrapped up here, how proud I am of you. And I know I told you before, but we love you so much. I can't wait to see what happens for you in life. You were such a talented and intelligent and beautiful young lady. And I know you have a lot of positive, good things to look forward to in life. So I can't wait to see what happens.
Thank you. Love you guys too. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I held him back.
He's just gonna skulk away and cry now by himself.
No, seriously though,
Poor dad.
watching all of you grow up has been.
It's been fun. It's not over yet.
I know.
Eli's only 8. Eli's not driving the Subaru.
It's gonna be flying an airplane in 5 years.
It's just been a lot of fun. It's been really interesting to see how each one of you develops and kind of comes into your own over time. So, good times. Well, this has become awkward. Yeah, no, and grateful to you for your willingness to do this.
Yeah, it's fun.
I asked you many times throughout the week
Yeah, it's
about whether or not
it's
you
a
were open to this. So,
vulnerable place to be.
it is
So.
clearly.
It's like all 3 of us are interviewing each other.
I know.
We're all on the spot. We're like,
No, I just think again, I love this format because we have these opportunities. How often do we talk like this in our house on a day-to-day basis?
rarely. Where you just sit down for like an hour and
Yeah.
stare at each other and no
Or where
other
you-
distractions.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's such a neat experience. I would encourage anybody out there who's thinking about maybe
To
doing
build a
it
podcast studio in there.
No, you don't have to do that. But like let's say you just make, you find your loved ones and your friends and you just make a commitment to like, hey, let's have some quiet time and let's chat and let's catch up. And there's we talked about that on the last episode and about how nobody seems to do that anymore. And I just feel like this is it serves as such a great opportunity for us to kind of reconnect in a way and set aside some time to just chat.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's good.
Gonna be important. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to wrap it up on that note.
Yeah.
One more cheers. Don't spill once again. Boom. Love you, ladies. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you then.